Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So alhamdulillah, man, I was reminded of shaytan today. And you know, sometimes when you see things or hear certain things and it reminds you of shaytan, sometimes it could be a blessing. You know, when you reminded of shaytan in the right type of way, like shaytan is busy. Shaytan is trying to ruin things. Shaytan is trying to disrupt things. Shaytan is playing with the mind of the peoples. So you start to be on guard. You know, like I really had to recalibrate myself and bring myself down to a level of calmness from some things that I seen and I heard, and it started from early this morning through the whole day. And so like later, like maybe a half hour ago, it just reminded me, okay, shaytan, Ramadan coming. Ramadan in like 6 months, 5 months. Shaytan is trying to really get people off of it before he locked down for Ramadan. So inshallah, man, some of the stuff I'm gonna talk about, inshallah, man, you know, the Muslims can benefit from it. So yesterday, live, I listened to a cookbar, man, by Tahir Wyatt. Yes, Tahir Wyatt, and it's just unfortunate, man, that some people been tricked into thinking that you can't listen to him. You know, even when you got a sound mind and sound ears, and some people, and all you had to do is sit down and listen to him and say, well, what did he say that was wrong? But when you don't even have that to say, oh man, you know, I listened to him. What did he do? You know what I'm saying? You a student, you do all this study and this and that, and you can't listen to him and say, where's the bid'ah? Where's the innovation? Like, what are you talking about? But anyway, it's just unfortunate. So no shot, no shade. But so this morning when I got up to go to the grocery store and do my food shopping, I decided to listen to it again because, you know, it was one of the best cook bars I heard in a while. But it sent me in a state of reflection because he made a statement, because, you know, he spoke about music and a little bit about music. And, you know, he was like, you know, I know people wondering like, well, why would you be talking about music and this and that? And then he made a statement. He said, if I was to give a khutbah about isbal, your pants being above your ankles, he said the masjid would be in an uproar. He said the masjid would be in an uproar. And I was like, wow. And it made me pause and reflect. Because at one point in time, having your pants above your ankles with the big cuffs, the small cuffs, hemmed, no cuffs, some fresh socks, some fresh sneakers, some nice kicks, some, you know, gym shoes, was a fashion statement. At one point in time, dressing like a Muslim was almost like a fashion statement. To the point where even celebrities started wearing their pants above their ankles. Some started growing beards. You may even have caught one in a kufi every now and then. You be on the East Coast, you be running around Philly, you might see 4-5 men outside of a row house or just on the block, because, you know, it be people everywhere. And you might see about 4-5 men, you know, together, pants above their ankles. One may have on a kufi, dashikis and all that, big beard with oils and shiny, glistening beard and all that, and wouldn't even be Muslim. Wouldn't even be Muslim. You might be sliding through a certain area in New York, see a person with their pants above their ankles and a big glistening beard, wouldn't even be Muslim. You know, I didn't see it. In New York, I didn't see as many people doing it in New York as I did in like Philly and some parts of Jersey. But I've seen people in New York with their pants above their ankles, big beard. I mean, they look like Muslims. You would think they was Muslim. They was dressed like Muslims. It was a fashion statement. But to hear him say, if I gave a khutbah about how your pants should be above your ankles, it would be an uproar. It would be an uproar. And if anybody remember those times, man, I'm not mentioning this to discredit any brother like I'm speaking down on them, but I remember I was, in a particular city where I had came and showed up to the masjid, and I had my pants above my ankles, and they was cut, and the little strings and stuff was hanging down. And the brother got mad and said, man, I wanted to be the first one to do that. Man, your pants already cut, man. I wanted to be the first one to do that. He wanted to cut some pants and wear some Timberland boots, because it was like a fashion statement. And he felt like I beat him to it, but these was pants that I had for several years. But I'm mentioning that, like I said, not to downplay him, but how much it was like a fashion statement. Not saying people was doing it to show off, but dressing like a Muslim, looking like a Muslim, wearing thobes, wearing kufis, looking like you on the sunnah was a fashion statement at one point. It became a fashion statement. The fresh shocks, some nice boots, some nice gym shoes, your sneakers. You know what I'm saying? Some hard bottoms. It ain't like that no more. And now a person, imam, to say, if I gave a khutbah about how your pants should be above your ankles, the masjid would be in an uproar. So when I was reflecting on them times, and the times I'm talking about around, 2012, even before this, but like 2012 to like 2017 was like a bright, like the way people was deeming and the way it looked, like Islam, it was a real bright light on Islam, in a good light. People didn't look at the Muslims like they look at the Muslims now. It would be conferences all over, like good conferences, no problems, nobody shooting up the conferences, nobody shooting up the Eids. No, why you at that conference and not this one? No conference about, with a telelink and a scholar, and a conference about some real knowledge, as opposed to a conference about, we hate this one because he teach at that masjid. Good food being sold outside, and almost like going to some type of a festival. It might be a good conference on the west side of a city, and then you go to the south side to another one, and everything would be beautiful. It ain't like that no more. It would be like a feeling in the air. It ain't like that no more. Now it's like people watch the conferences over the internet. Like for people who remember a time, man, or lived in areas, like if you grew up in some projects or something like that, and you would go outside and people would be playing football or stickball, baseball, basketball. They would be outside playing different sports, running around, racing, the girls double dutching, playing kickball, just active. And then you could see when video games got to a certain point, instead of people going to the park the shoe hoop or to the courts in their projects or whatever, the kids stayed in the house and played basketball and football on the video games. You know, and people who can remember that era and that feeling and how it was, the Muslims in America had a phase like that, right? And marriage was in abundance. And like the things I'm speaking on, it's not to down the Muslims, but like you will see situations, man, where like not just one Muslim sisters, like a whole bunch of Muslim sisters. You see Muslim sisters, man, they done got married 3-4 times in 1 year. Man, how you get married 3-4? You done got married 3-4 times this year? What about it that period? Oh, well, I got a cooler from every last one of them. You could see somebody get divorced on a Tuesday. Next Tuesday, they was married again. By the next Tuesday or the next Tuesday after that, they already married or doing sit downs. You see a brother them got married 6 times in a year, 8 times in a year. They used to even have a joke where people would be on social media like, man, I was so bored on social media that I almost got married. You know, you on social media and they had these little Muslim groups like the Muslim Lounge and Muslim marriage groups, and they be matching people up and have a wali and this and that, and people get to talking to each other and end up married. You know, not saying what, you know, the harms or, you know, people playing around with the marriages, but I'm just pointing out how easy it was to get married and how often people was getting married. It wasn't all this, and like I say, all the marriages wasn't bad. You know, of course you had some bad marriages, but it wasn't all this, can you take me on vacations? Can you buy me a Mercedes? From the men, it wasn't all this demanding, you gotta memorize 10 surahs a week plus 25 du'as. By the time the month is over, you need to have 100 du'as memorized, or you going in to hit that. Or if you can't do that, I'm not going to marry. Some of these crazy standards that people hold each other to this day, to where they not getting married. You know what I'm saying? People, Muslims not even wanting to get married. Can't even find marriage. And I'm like, but at that time, it wasn't nothing to get married. You can walk outside and get married. People was getting married and divorced so much that they started giving khutbahs and warning against marriage. Are y'all playing this and that? You done had that old poppy store marriage, that bodega marriage, you know, little stuff like that, the little shotgun nikah you done had. But my point is, you know, regardless of what people was on, if they was marrying to have sex, marrying for the weekend, you can go outside and get married. Brother and sister, it was nothing to get married. It ain't like that no more. People having difficult times. Some people get married, but people having difficult times finding a Muslim to marry. Muslim men going back to the kuffar and Muslim women going back to the kuffar. Times have changed. It used to be a saying, man, in the Salafi community, man. I remember one time Talib Abdullah was given a khutbah at Germantown Masjid, and it's recorded. And he kind of, you know, it was funny, man, because anybody who know Talib Abdullah, especially back in the day when, you know, he was still a lot older, but, you know, but the way how loud he is, and like he didn't really play, and he would call the Muslims out on their garbage. You know, one of my favorite speakers, man, because you know he gonna let you have it when you ain't on it. And he was like, because you know they used to have this saying called, I'm about to close the book. And you would hear the brothers be like, I'm about to close the book. And he gave a football talking about, yeah, you brothers running around here talking about you about to close the book. Why don't you go find some book? Why don't you go find some Quran and Hadith? Why don't you try opening the book? He was saying this in the football. It was funny. But I'm about to close the book. Man, you're about to have 4 wives. You're about to go. You done found you another wife, and you're about to have 4 wives. Wallahi, it used to be sisters, like not just 1 or 2 sisters. You would see sisters in abundance, and people was interested in marrying them, and they would say, "You got to marry my friend too. If you can't marry both of us, then we're not gonna do it. We come as a deal. I want for my sister what I want for myself." Wallahi. Sisters used to be like, man, hey, we come together. Or it'll be a sister, it might be 2 sisters, and they might find another sister, man, a sister going through some things and, have a situation. They sit down and talk to her and chop it up with her, check out her hygiene habits and all that type of stuff. They introduce the sister to their husband. Now, I think you should marry this sister. We want for her what we want for ourselves. Like, wallahi, man, this was a real thing. It ain't like that no more. It ain't like that no more. Now, a sister might be married to somebody and they think their husband might be interested, or somebody try to introduce their husband, they'll try to sabotage it. You marry another woman, you can divorce me. Before I marry you, we putting it in the contract, you can't take another wife. But then the same sister be swearing up and down they want for another sister what they want for themselves. But the first thing you say is, if you marrying me, you can't take another wife. You got to put that in the contract. But before 2000 up to about, this stuff started changing around 2019-ish, 2018-ish. It started dwindling. Before, man, you got to marry both of us. You got to marry all 3 of us. We looking for a brother that can afford all 3 of us. It ain't like that no more. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm just thinking about all this, man, all from when he said, if I was to give a khutbah about how you supposed to have your pants above your ankles, man, the masjid would be in an uproar. And like I said, I'm just thinking about how much times have changed. And while I'm walking around the store, I got my headphones on, so I'm listening. So when you listening to something on YouTube, when it go off, sometimes another video will just go into autoplay. So another video goes into autoplay. It happened to be a Muslim, and the first thing I hear him start talking about, he say his name and this and that, and then he goes in and get to talking about why following the Quran and the Sunnah is dangerous. So I'm like, I pull my phone out to see who is this and look at the video. Like, man, what is this? And this is a video of a Muslim who almost sound like a student. He got the mannerism. And he's talking about following Quran and Sunnah is dangerous. From a position of promoting a madhab, like, there's no way you can get your deen together by studying Quran and Hadiths. You have to do it through a madhab. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at reality, and you look at the majority of the Muslims in America, they don't follow no madhab. They may claim one. How many Muslims who even claim a madhab, where did they go and learn the madhab from A to Z? Or I follow Hanafi, I follow Maliki. Okay, where did you go learn it from A to Z? Or would a masjid have somebody, or they brought this person in? How long was you in class? Where you test that? Where your scores? Where did they learn? Who taught them? And then if you bust down some of the stuff that's from the madhab, they be like, no, we don't do that. You'll see somebody praying like this, but they talking about they follow the Hanafi madhab. You follow madhab? Yeah, man, I'm Hanafi. But they praying like this. You know what I'm saying? You bring up something else. Oh, well, I'm Hanafi. Oh, I'm Maliki. I'm Tablighi. But what the stuff you doing isn't from that madhab. You know, and you know, just the way he was positioning stuff and talking, they really just lightweight, totally disrespect tafsirs and hadith. And when I say tafsirs, I'm basically saying explanation of the Quran ayat. When I say hadith, I'm basically saying the explanations of the Sunnah. You know, even to the point where they sitting up saying the Quran don't even say that you're supposed to follow no Sunnah. But they'll say, because they don't feel like the word Sunnah is there, oh yeah, you're supposed to follow Prophet Muhammad. Okay, what you following him in the Prophet Muhammad in, what do you call that? You call it a hadith. Yeah, you're supposed to follow the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so how do you do that without hadith? Hadith ain't real. You know, it just blew my mind, man. And it was just, once again, it was just another things have changed moment. And then I see a video every year, or maybe every couple years, I watch the change, how the people who celebrate what they feel like is the Prophet Muhammad's birthday. Okay? And I'm looking at them in Iraq. And over the years, I've been watching it. Like, sometimes they had like a whole football stadium, a soccer stadium somewhere overseas, and have Christmas trees with lights and like imitating the kuffar at its finest. If you celebrate Prophet Muhammad's birthday, you know that's on you. None of this is a knock to anybody, you know, to you and yours, you know. But I was looking at it this year from a couple of days ago, the video like 2 days ago, and they had the streets packed like anybody who ever been like around Times Square or, you know, certain areas in Manhattan and stuff, like for New Year's, where they used to drop the ball, or they dropped the ball, and the way people be in the streets. Man, it looked like New Year's Eve in New York City on the streets. Muslim women running around, no covering, short sleeves, snug shirt, bosom showing, makeup all on their face. Women in hijabs and a bunch of makeup and thick lipstick and stuff, man. Even looking at some of the stuff, like I looked at some of that stuff, man, and said, man, they look like they look like some of the Muslims in America that don't understand their deen. What they call hijab. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, but I mean, and then they, you know, they even had little kids holding up the little lightweight firework things. Now they popping fireworks. Then everybody was having to light a candle, and they had all these places where you could stick a candle in. But as I'm peeping the game, people paying for these candles to burn. People paying for these fireworks. People buying all this stuff. And in my head, when I'm looking at that, seeing, okay, people done turn this into making money. And wallahi, as I'm looking at it, as they walking down the street, I'm like, man, this stuff, like, when you look at the people who celebrate what they think is Jesus' birthday as a Christian, a kafir, right, the kuffar, in they infant stages of celebrating Christmas as Jesus' birthday, if you look at how many years have passed since they started, let's say for instance, within the first 50 years of them celebrating Jesus' birthday, what it looked like. And then you look at within the first 50 years of them praying, them celebrating Prophet Muhammad's birthday. Within the 50 years of the Muslims celebrating it compared to the first 50 years of the Christians, it's way bigger already. And in my head, when I seen them people buying candles to burn and stick them all over the place, instead of in a birthday cake, they called it a candle lighting ceremony. I'm talking about they burning millions of candles, man. It's hundreds of thousands of people out there. I looked at that and I said, man, the whole city out there. It might even be some people who just out there that don't really celebrate it, but it's so many people out there walking in the street. It's probably some men out there looking for girls, and there's some girls out there looking for men. It's like a festival. I said, man, the whole city out there, man. But when I seen them buying them candles and buying all this little stuff, I said in my head, a day gonna come where they gonna start giving, and it might be already. I said, yeah, they gonna come in where they gonna start putting presents under a tree for each other for the prophet's birthday. Because they used to do Christmas trees. I was surprised that, and probably in some countries and other videos, it's probably some who still doing Christmas trees. Wallahi, that's what I was waiting to see, where the Christmas trees at. But this particular festival, they lighting a bunch of candles and buying big candles like this, and they light them and put them in like this thing, like it was this whole table that looked like a cake. But it wasn't a real cake, it was just painted and it had decor like it was a cake. And it had all these things, and people would buy a big old candle and light the candle and stick it in there, so when everybody bought it and put the candles around, it looked like a big birthday cake full of candles. And then they'd just let the candles burn. And then they got them all over the place, all over the city and the streets, place where you buy all different sizes of candles and you light your candles and let them burn. And you can see where some candles that burned and melted as wax, and now somebody else done came in and put another candle. I said, boy, times have changed. And then the people talking, they speaking in Arabic, but, and you know, they have like a translation, but they were saying, we're doing this, like they really had somebody saying, look, we're doing this because basically it was a tradition passed down from our grandfather to our father, from our great grandfather to our grandfather to our father. We inherited this tradition. And then you had little kids. So like the same way like Christmas and Easter was indoctrinated into us as Americans, you could see where that stuff is going to be indoctrinated in them. And if they ever go start to learn a religion and go to a college or really learn, and they step outside of that environment and start to learn that it's wrong, it's going to be hard for them to give it up. Just like Americans, it's so hard for them to give up the 4th of July, to give up the birthdays, to give up, Merry Christmas. It's difficult for them. It's going to be difficult for them. And they're going to have those same excuses. Well, it's just a prophet's birthday. This just means that we love him. What's wrong with that? How does this go against religion? I said, boy, times has changed. And it made me think, because like I said, I'm reflecting on a time frame from a good 2012 to 2025. Basically 13 years. And the little changes that I've seen that I'm speaking on, and it's just making me imagine the next 5 years from now. Like, what is it going to be like, man? What is it going to be like? It's kind of a bitter pill to swallow. You know what I mean? It's I was like, wow, man. You know. So alhamdulillah, man, you know, so, you know, and like I say, when I later on in the evening and then some other conversations and things I had, man, and you know, it's just like, yeah, man, shaytan is busy, man. Shaytan is busy, man. So, you know, man, you know, Ramadan is, we about 5 months away, 5 months and some days, you know, possibly 6 months, depending on the moon and all that type of stuff. We'll say 6 months away. But what is it? Like the 14th? Yeah, so it's the 14th on the Muslim calendar. 3rd month, 14th. So yeah, about 5 months and 2 weeks away from Ramadan. Shaytan crafty, man. So, you know, man, we just take heed, man, and you know, sit back and reflect, man. Just like even with your time of being Muslim, man, and just think of some of the things that you've seen that's different. And like I say, you know, coming from a hadith background, man, I remember the times, and I've talked about them in videos where, man, if you was doing something and you wasn't quoting Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim, you know what I'm saying? When a person used to say, like, man, what's the dalil? You had to have real dalil. Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari. Then I started seeing when that started changing. Oh, well, that you don't understand fiqh. Then people started taking little sayings and little quotes and twisting the dalil up, and now you're going to force it into dalil. You're going to take a circle and force it into a square hole. That ain't the dalil for that. But see, it was a point in time, man, when people would be on that Bukhari and that Muslim so heavy, you couldn't get by them, man. You couldn't get by them without Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. You didn't even want to. And it wasn't no, man, you know, Bukhari, Muslim say, no, the hadith number, this, that. Some people even run off the isnad. Bust out their phone, bust out the book. Sahih Bukhari right here. Now, man, it just done changed, man. It just done changed, man. Tafsir, Quran ayat, what's the first thing they hitting you with? Ibn Kathir. It didn't matter, no other sets or nothing out there. Then Sa'di, they start hitting people with a Sa'di. Now you know somebody bust out a tafsir from Ibn Kathir and people be like, oh, that ain't the only tafsirs. So what? Do that mean this ain't dalil no more? Man, times done changed, man. Times done changed. And if you don't get on the boat, man, I fear for people who don't get on that boat of knowledge, man. I fear for the people who don't get on that boat of knowledge. And I'm going to answer this question for the brother, man. The brother asked me about studying the madhab. Should we do it, and should it be mandatory? I don't feel like you should. Not saying that I don't feel like you have to. I study Hanbali fiqh from beginning to end with qualified teachers, done sat with scholars, and went over books and everything, right? The beginning. I'm still in the beginning stages, okay? But with me, I'm glad I come from the hadith background and studying usul of fiqh, foundation, like studying the foundations of fiqh without a madhab. How to understand the religion like the Sahaba and the Salaf. Those foundations of fiqh. Not fiqh of madhabs, fiqh of the deen, fiqh fi deen, right? I'm glad I had that under my belt before I started studying the fiqh of a madhab. Because now I have something to throw it up against. As opposed to people who didn't study any of these things or been turned against hadiths and tafsirs, because it's Quran, Sunnah, Ijma. That's your dalil. Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, and then occasionally Qiyas, depending on the circumstances. When you understand that, and then you starting to learn the madhab, you know what the way the statements of the madhab against. You can weigh what those imams said up to Quran, Sunnah, Ijma. And like I say, I'm just going to put it this way. If madhabs was perfect, why would you need another one? If madhab number 1 was perfect, why do we have madhab number 2? And then madhab number 3? And then madhab number 4? And if they perfect systematically from beginning to end, why do they disagree so much? Oh, well, you can differ on, you can have differences. Sometimes you can and sometimes you can't, man. So I'm going to just leave it at that. And like I say, the average American, they've been Muslim 10, 15 years, maybe longer. And some of them don't even know what the madhab is. They don't even know. Like I said, they be running around praying like this, talking about they follow the Hanafi madhab. You know what I'm saying? Running around praying like this, talking about they Shafi. But anyway, man, I ain't saying that to criticize them. It's just unfortunate, man. Times have truly changed. And for the people who saying you can't learn your religion by looking at tafsirs and looking at hadiths, and you need the madhab, which madhab do they need? And where can they go learn it? Because people know they can go buy tafsirs Ibn Kathir. They know they can buy tafsir Sa'di. They know that they could buy Bukhari, Muslim, Nasa'i, Dawood, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah. They know they could go buy those books of hadith and comb through them. Which madhab do they need to follow, and what books do they need to go get to learn them, and where the teachers at in America for them to learn it from beginning to end? What they supposed to do? Just sit around and wait? And I'm saying that because you have Muslims stagnant. Oh, well, I ain't gonna learn no hadiths. I ain't gonna listen to no hadiths because you need a madhab. Now 5-6 years done passed and you ain't learned no madhab. You know what I'm saying? You ain't learned no madhab. It's just dangerous, man. Sometimes, man, that stuff keep people stagnant when they could have went and looked in Bukhari and looked in Muslim and asked somebody. Get a book with the explanation of the hadiths. But anyway, man, times have changed, man. And, man, Allah be with us all, man. And just learning, I ain't even gonna speak on that, man. It's just unfortunate, man. It's just unfortunate. But just think about that, man. Marriage, you could walk outside and get married, man. Now they need 10 sit downs, 4 months counseling, and I understand that. I get it. I understand why they implemented it, but man, you used to go to the masjid, man, and man, is any single sisters in here? Is that woo out the woo sister? Is there any brothers? And man, within the next couple of weeks, man, y'all could have been on y'all way, man. But anyway, man, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.